A guy that's got maybe too much of a thing for shadows. A daughter that's not afraid to take you down a notch or two. And a ninja that loves to get his flow on. This is part 6 of our Vendetta complete set review, the Chaos cards. Welcome back to part 6 of the Arcane Academy complete set review for Vendetta. Part 1 is a must-watch as we go over every legend, signature spell, and chosen champion in the set, which lays the proper context for how all the cards in this review should be viewed. We'll be looking at every Chaos card in the set today, for both constructed and limited play for your pre-rift, and giving out the awards you know and love. But please don't forget, these set reviews are a ton of work, so please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of these or our other videos. Leave a comment with your thoughts on how we're doing rating these cards, or how bad. You can go nuts, whatever. And make sure you hit that hype and like button if you're on mobile. Find the hype button, swipe over on your little thingy or whatever there, and hype it. You get 3 hypes per week, and it helps out so much. Also, big thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can get all your Vendetta cards and more from one place, from a company that's been in the business for 2 decades. Use promo code ARCANE for 5% off at checkout. Now, let's become agents of chaos. Start things off for Chaos, we've got Kinkou Lifeblade, 4 energy for 4 might. This is a unit with no baseline abilities, but has empowered 2. And when empowered, I have +1 might and ganking, which is a good combination, of course. Any large unit having ganking is great. You can move a Lifeblade in, and then the next turn you can empower it, make it bigger, and then gank over to the other battlefield. Of course, this speaks to Mel, just doing the empowering thing, and it's just kind of a fine baseline unit. I don't think that the raw rate here is good enough for constructed. There are just better options at 4 energy and above. This is a fantastic card for your pre-rift. It has no power cost, so you can play this in any deck as your 3rd color, potentially. This is just a really, really good unit. Also cool, don't forget that you can use synergy that you couldn't normally use in constructed in your pre-rift decks, where you can play Kinkou Lifeblade in your Ambessa deck, where it plays really well. You can empower it, make it big, and then ready it up, which is great. So, great card for your pre-rifts. Probably not quite there constructed. Next up is Mask Mother for all my Jinx fans. 3 energy for 3 might. This is a unit that says whenever you discard me, you may pay 1 to give a friendly unit +2 this turn. So clearly the discard goes into the Zed synergy. And this is a card where I really wish didn't have that 1 cost on it. I think without that 1 energy cost, this card is quite excellent with Traveling Merchant and many other discard effects. The Zed Legend, of course, works with it as well. And getting a free +2 is pretty awesome, but adding that 1 cost on it means you're going to be playing a little bit off curve whenever you use this. That being said, it is pretty cool. I get alongside Traveling Merchant, the Legend ability, and other discards. Is it worth the squeeze is the question. You know, it is a baseline unit you can just play going second on your first turn, so it's not that terrible there. But overall, I'm not really sure if this is powerful enough to get through. It's funny how Jinx might be the most appealing home for this card. I mean, I imagine Zed at this point has better things to do. Really, really cool limited card. Really, really cool design overall, but I don't think it quite gets there. A card that does get there is Shadow Order Disciple. Bombin Common award, 2 energy for 2 might, the old baseline 2-drop. Whenever I move, you may burn 1 to give me +1 might this turn. This is upside on top of upside. It reads like a downside, right? Oh no, I have to burn 1. Burning 1 is great. Putting cards into your trash is fantastic, as it allows you to just randomly hit flow cards, power up Raza of Sunderer, get new cards for Fizz. Just excellent. Having a full trash is fantastic. And this is a unit that does so on an unbelievable rate. Even if it wasn't burn 1, it was just banish the top card of your deck to give me +1. That would still be great. It's just like an Assault 1 unit that can do some cool stuff, but the synergy here is unbelievably awesome. This card is fantastic. Going to be great in your pre-rift decks. And this is a card that, you know, is definitely earmarked for Kennen, doing some trash things, but also Zed as well. And basically any deck that is just playing out of a trash in any reasonable way, which there have been a lot of purple decks to do across many different archetypes. Shadow Order Disciple is absolutely fantastic, and your Bombin Common for Vendetta purple. Speaking of great cards to put in the trash, check out Shadowcloaked Lurker. 5 energy, 5 might, no abilities, just I cost 2 less for each card with my name in your trash. So this is a card you really want to dump that first or maybe even second copy into your trash, and you're getting a well understated unit. We're talking about 3 energy for a 5 might unit, or even 1 energy for a 5 might unit. but you definitely don't want to cast that first copy. So of course, this plays excellent with Zed and with Kennen, just these trash decks that want to kind of plow through, put cards in the trash. I think this card is pretty reasonable, honestly. It compares, somewhat, favorably to cards like Noxus Hopeful or Battering Ram, where it's just like this really large, undercosted unit. I think casting this card for 3 shouldn't be too difficult. And there's enough rummaging going on in Zed and Kennen and Purple in general to kind of just loot through, whether you're playing Traveling Merchant or whatever else, and kind of get past that first copy, Zon Warrens as well. So I think it's the card that has an outside shot at Constructed as far as just a big dumb idiot. I mean, there are plenty of those, Raz of Asunder and friends, but pretty cool. And then in Limited is exciting because in Limited, there is no max number of cards you can have in your deck. So these sort of gotta catch them all cards can be very, very good in Limited. This doesn't have the to a minimum of 1 rider text because in Constructed, it can never cost less than 1. You can only have 3 copies. In Limited, however, you could have 4 or 5 copies of this card if you get lucky. So pretty cool one to watch out for. And the baseline rate of 5 for 5 isn't that bad anyway. So pretty cool card for Pre-Rift. Next up is kind of a meme, but Spiderling, 3 energy for 1 might, has hidden. I have +1 might for each other unit you control here. That's the tough part. It has to be in the same location with my name. And your deck can have any number of cards named Spiderling. So, yeah, I mean, the first thing you think of is Teemo here as a way to kind of just max out your hidden cards for your blue Teemo legend and then just have a bunch of hidden cards and Spiderlings. I strongly doubt this will be in any way playable in a serious format, but it is pretty fun. And it's also a thing to be aware of if you're new to TCGs. This kind of gotta catch them all. I can have any number of these cards tend to have a lot of value for casual players because if you're going to play this card in casual, you need 30 copies of it. So any regular copy of this card probably be worth $1, like a lot more than your average common. Any foil version of Spiderling you happen to open at your pre-rift is going to command a premium. I would not be surprised if this is a $10 foil uncommon, whether you get it in your packs in a normal foil or in your promo packs for Nexus Night. So be aware of that. A little Riftbound finance advice for y'all. That's all I really got in this one. Spiderling is not very good, but go have fun with it. Stargazer is next. 5 energy for a 4 might unit. It says spells with flow you play from your trash cost 2 less to a minimum of 1. That is a fantastic text box, especially for Kennen and for Zed and for any deck playing a large quantity of flow cards. The problem is the cost and sizing of the unit it's attached to is less exciting. 5 energy for 4 might is pretty poor, has no combat abilities at all. This is the kind of unit you want to hang out in your back row and just kind of take advantage of the effect you get from it. But 5 energy for that is a lot. So I think this card is a little too costly to be that effective. It'll be a pretty good pre-riff card because your flow cards are going to be so good in Limited. But overall, I think kind of a stinker. If it could go below 1, you could play these, 2 cost flow cards for free, maybe. But as it stands, kind of a bust. Not a bust is Tornado Warrior. 3 energy for 3 might with hidden, so great base stats, because Pocket Cub I think is already close to being a playable card. When you play it from face down, you may empower something here and disempower it at end of turn. So note that it has to be here in the same location, so you can't empower your Mel Legend with this. It does play with Empower cards, so it does seem to go in Mel. And this is a way to kind of cheat on your big Empower costs, which there are a number of in the set. That's pretty sweet because what you're getting here is already totally worth it on rate. I think in Pre-Rift and Limited especially, but even in Constructed, a hidden card with 3 might is pretty solid, as you've seen from Purple Pike. And then the upside there, if you're able to make a huge Empower, you get able to skirt some Empower costs that would, be 4, 5, 6 energy. That's a really big deal too. So definitely a card that needs other cards to be good. It's dependent on whatever you're empowering, but has the ability to do that. And then a fantastic pre-riff card where Empower is going to be a major deal in any deck that you play, and you're already getting it on this great rate hidden unit. Tornado Warrior is pretty awesome. Next, we have an interesting one. Purple getting into tokens. Purple already does everything else. Why not tokens too? Up from a Deep is a slow speed spell for 3 energy. It says play 2 1 might tentacle unit tokens from Bilgewater, which is a tag, doesn't matter that much right now. Has flow 2, so you can play it and then play it again. The real draw with this card, of course, would be just to dump it into your trash with Zed or Kennen spells, and then just play it from the trash and not ever play that first costing of it. That being said, it's still just 3 energy for 2 tokens in a color that doesn't use tokens very well. You know, unless you're specifically playing Kennen, you're playing yellow, purple, and you have cards like Cull the Weak or things that care about tokens. There isn't really much synergy to be had, and these random tokens don't do a ton in Riftbound with that synergy, or just too small to kind of matter. You can, in theory, play this, you know, turn 1 going second and then double conquer, I suppose, but that's not really that exciting without synergy. So I think this card is okay. I think it's a card that doesn't really have a lot to do synergy-wise, aside from just like dumping it in the bin and playing it. It's just kind of okay. That being said, a card that will get better as time goes on, and there is more synergy effects with chaos and tokens. But yeah, I think this card is mostly just okay. It's going to play a little worse than you think it would. A card that's going to play a lot better than you think it would will be Gust Monk, our sleeper award winner for chaos. 2 energy for 2 might. You may pay 1 as an extra cost when you pay me. And when you do that, you get to banish a card from any trash to give a unit assault 2 this turn. This card is awesome. It has that baseline, you know, it's just a 2-drop and it's very flexible. But at any point after turn 1 going first, you now have the ability to push over with like this mini cleave effect with the assault, attack in, push over a battlefield, very flexible, can go anywhere, can go in different units. You can pay it or not pay it, of course. And then also, you're banishing a card from the trash. So that will turn on your Kennen legend. But more importantly, you could also target your opponent's trash as well. So this is also a trash hate card that you can main deck. And the trash is a huge deal in Vendetta. So having this card you can play that's fantastically on rate, that is also a hate piece for your opponent's trash synergy, is unbelievably good. Get rid of those flow cards, get rid of other various trash synergies, make the Raza of Asunderers worse, and so on and so forth. Gust Monk is awesome. Just an unbelievably great card on rate. Has a little bit of synergy too, but an all-around beater. Gust Monk is now one of the premier purple 2-drops in Riftbound and should be looked at with basically any purple legend. A little more narrow is Ravenbloom Prefect. 3 energy for 3 might. Says whenever an opponent plays a gear, you may banish me to banish it. And this is a really high quality sideboard card. It's funny because I feel like purple is one of the best colors into Dazzling Aurora already, with Starcross being a majorly great answer to Elder Dragon coming in for that one big turn. But it also gets perhaps the best anti-Aurora card maybe ever printed. As a unit you can play, you can just kind of play it and move in with it and conquer early. And then at that key point where you can be tapped out, they play the Aurora. This can get it, so it stops them from playing it, which is great. Probably not a main deck card, and probably not particularly great against anything but Aurora. Maybe like a BF Sword or a Vanguard Armory could be a target for this, but for the most part, this is just a fantastic sideboard card. And also a card not embarrassed to play in your pre-rif deck on rate as a unit, but really, really great sideboard card for basically any purple deck. Next, we have Shadows of the Past, a slow speed spell for 3 energy and a power. Return up to 2 units from trashes to their owner's hands. So clearly a card looking to play with these trash-based legends like Zed and Kennen, where you're just kind of discarding cards and burning cards, and then you can bring things back. Obviously, it can just be played in a longer game where you're just, you know, playing this as a draw 2 units from your trash. That's like fine, pretty unexciting. It also can be used on your opponent's things. So if your opponent is playing some trash synergy with units, you can give them the card back, which is maybe not great, but if it's an Elder Dragon they're trying to reanimate or whatever else it might be, sure, that could be a thing. That being said, I am not a fan of cards like this in Riftbound. Any spell, especially a slow speed spell, that has a pretty high cost of 3 and a power, that only serves to effectively draw you cards, is just not where it's at. You want your card advantage to come from units and from things that affect the board. This does not do that. So I think this card is basically just a card for your pre-rif decks if you are desperate for some card advantage, but otherwise quite poor overall. Next up is Tail-Cloaked Matriarch. 4 energy for 4 might, has Empower 2 and a power. When I become empowered, you may choose a unit in your trash. Energy costs no more than 3 and power costs no more than a power, and play it to your base, ignoring its cost. All right, so this card is very interesting. It plays a lot like Spectral Matron from Origins in yellow, in that it has this, bring back a small unit, get some cool value off of it kind of effect. It is more expensive, so you need to pay a total of 6 energy and 1 power, but a little more flexible too, where you kind of just play it, have it hang around as a well-statted unit, and then use it later. And then this is really, really powerful with a lot of the units you can find in purple, and then purple-yellow as well with Kennen, getting back things like Fizz, Kennen's purple chosen champion we'll get to in a little bit. If you're in yellow, getting back just like you would with the Spectral Matron. Getting back Vanguard Captain is great as well. So a really cool kind of trash-based unit. That's also nice because there's so much trash synergy in this set. There's so many ways to just dump cards in your bin and then get them back. Making this card pretty nice. The Empower is good for Mel as well. This is a nice card. It is a little bit clunky, and I think you definitely need to make sure you're bringing back some quality cards with it. But the flexibility here is quite nice. And then kind of makes you do a double take across all of the colors as to what cards you have, units that cost 3 energy and a power or less, that have good play abilities or whatever else. So Tail-Cloaked Matriarch is great. It's a really, really good card on rate. You can see it home in a whole bunch of different places, and of course is excellent in your pre-order decks as well. Next up we have Twilight Step. 2 energy and a power for a slow speed spell. It says move a unit with 3 might or less. Then it has flow for 4 and a power. So a bit of move action here in purple. Only targeting small things is kind of rough. Of course, if you're looking to target your opponent's unit, you could just play Gust or something like that, or another card we'll see coming up shortly. You can move your own units too, which is, cool. It's kind of expensive, and Ride the Wind does it better. So kind of awkward. This does work interestingly with Mel as far as you can make, you can shrink one of their units and then move it because it's only 3 or less. That's fine. Overall, this card just seems kind of unexciting. It's not super enthused with what it's doing. It's not really, viable against larger units. The flow cost is kind of okay, but I think this card's mostly junky and a card you probably shouldn't be playing too much in anything. A card you should be playing is Wind and Ghosts. 3 energy and a power for an action speed spell. Choose a unit at a battlefield. If it had 3 might or less, banish it. Otherwise, return it to its owner's hand. Whoa. Okay, so this card kind of exists in the mid-space between Star-Crossed and Rebuke. A pretty good place to be. We have effectively just a baseline Rebuke, which is just Rebuke for 3 energy and 1 power, rather than 2 energy and 2 power, which has ups and downs. I think overall, maybe a slight improvement, but it's really debatable, honestly. The fact that it can be defied is honestly maybe a count against it. So maybe if defied didn't exist, a little better, because it does exist a little bit worse. But the big thing here is that this is also just a actual removal spell, and not just a removal spell, a banishing removal spell. So this plays fantastic with Mel, as you can use your Mel legend ability to shrink things and then get rid of them. But any legend can do that, that has blue in it as well, where you could use a card like Smokescreen on their Ferris Forerunner, then Wind and Ghosts it, and now it's just gone forever with no mech tokens on the way out. That being said, as far as banishing removal goes, purple is about the color that needs it the least because of how well the bounce spells work against these big units. It's kind of more of the same, but still really, really good. I think Wind and Ghost is excellent. This is going to be unbelievable in limited, and then we'll see a good amount of play constructed across all the purple decks. Maybe Mel in particular because of the minusing effect, but basically any purple deck that is purple-blue deck that's able to shrink things and then maybe kill them. This card's great. Kind of goes into that Rebuke Star-Cross mix that everyone hates so much. And one more card to complain about when it comes to purple. On to the rares, we get to our Purple Decree. This is the sideboard hate card. 1 energy, 1 power to return any number of order units with total might 5 or less to their owner's hands. So you have slow speed here and a power in the cost, 2 counts against Decree of Discord. Also kind of amusing is, the first thing I thought of when I saw this card was, oh wow, against Victor you can bounce all of those recruit tokens, or Darius or whatever is making recruit tokens. Nope, recruit tokens don't actually have a domain, so you can't do that, even though they are made by order cards. This card's just fine. It's not particularly exciting, honestly. There are just better options when it comes to returning things to your owner's hand, as we just saw. And it's very, very narrow, as it's only good against order as in your sideboard. And the flexibility of being a reaction or not having a power cost isn't there either. Feels like one of the weaker decrees. It still could be playable in a metagame where there's tons of order decks going all over the place. But overall, I think this card's kind of meh. If this card was an action, I can deal with yellow Vi. That would be a huge upgrade, but it can't do that. So overall, I think this card is just okay, pretty fringe, playable in the right spots, but overall very, very narrow. Forgotten Relic is next, 5 energy for a gear, a very interesting gear at that. When you play this or at the start of your beginning phase, burn 1. So put a card from your deck into your trash. When you burn a unit this way, give a friendly unit plus might equal to the burned card's might this turn. So if I burn over a Kaisa survivor, I can give any unit in play plus 4 might. That's pretty awesome. The problem here is the unreliability of not knowing what you're going to get. But the good news is that you get to do this effect and then make your choice of if you're coming into a battlefield or not. Unlike some units we've seen where like this condition is based on what happens when you move in, so you're not sure how big it's going to be. This is a pre-combat sort of thing, so you do have an idea. And this card's kind of nice. Of course, we're in that trash space with Kennen and Zed, but this is just a way to keep reliably putting cards into your trash every turn for all of your flow costs and various trash effects, which is cool. And a way to punch through where, you know, anytime you hit a unit, you get to have a little extra bonus as well. It's a little clunky, but I do like that it has the effect when you play it too. So it might give you that first boost to kind of push through that first unit and win a combat, give you that value early on. I think this card's nice. I think this card's a sleeper. I think this card has some pretty good value across any legend using the trash, not just Zed and Kennen, but also maybe Ezreal or other legends like that. But yeah, I think this card's cool. I think this card's going to play pretty well. One thing to be aware of though in your pre-rift is that your decks are only 25 cards. So burning out, that is losing all the cards in your deck, and you have to give your opponent a point and then reshuffle your graveyard back into your deck, is a thing that can happen. So be aware of that, but still pretty good, I think, overall, because it will help you win the game. Next, we have a new champion unit, Illaoi, Prophet to the Great Kraken, 6 energy for 4 might. When you play me or when I score, play a 1 might tentacle unit token from Bilgewater, and I have +1 for each token unit as you control. So we said earlier about the Up from a Deep spell that there's very little token synergy in Chaos. Well, this is the first big token synergy card we've seen in purple, where it cares about tokens you control, it makes tokens. It's a pretty cool card, but again, sort of without a home, where maybe, in Kennen, specifically because you're playing yellow, you can pair your yellow token cards with this card and, kind of other tokeny effects and kind of do something like that, which is kind of cool. Is that better than regular Kennen? It's a stretch. But this feels like one of those cards that will get better as time goes on, as there isn't really support for it yet, but there assumedly will be in the future. And it's pretty cool, honestly. And as far as your pre-rifts go, it's fine. If you have a couple of copies of a common that makes tentacles, sure, could be a cool synergy piece, but not that exciting overall. Then we come to Mel's rare champion unit in purple, Mel Defiant Soul. 5 energy for 4 might. Has Empower, discard a spell. That's a pretty hefty Empower cost, but it is free in the sense that it does not cost energy or power. When I become empowered, banish a unit at a battlefield with 3 might or less. And that is a pretty potent effect. Just baseline, this just comes in, eats your opponent's 2 or 3 drop. That's kind of awesome. It's pretty good value for, 5 might and 4 power. But the real bonus here is when you're using it in conjunction with Mel's legend power, where you can use Mel to shrink something and then get rid of that Kaisa or Darius or whatever else. The problem here is that they don't synergize directly, whereas because there's no reaction speed things happening here, you can't use the Empower on Mel Defiant Soul to empower your Mel legend, then shrink something, and then use the ability on Mel Defiant Soul to remove it. Your legend has to already be empowered, then to shrink it. That's not that hard to do if you're playing Mel. And this card seems pretty great, honestly. And again, put together with other shrink effects, you can get rid of some larger things. Again, banishing Ferris Forerunner is the dream, which is great. So this Mel's pretty good. Blue Mel is also pretty good. So as far as chosen champs go, I could definitely see this being a chosen champ you play in your sideboard and you use when you're going second, or use against decks playing small units, like against Master Yi in particular. This is a way to kind of like get rid of their Lonely Poro or whatever else, and kind of get around the Master Yi pump, because it's not pumped because you're not in combat yet. So Mel Defiant Soul is pretty cool, and a great card for your pre-rifts too. Minah Swiftfoot is next, 6 energy and a power for a 6 might unit, so decent stat line. When I move to a battlefield, choose 1. Each player discards 1, or each player draws 1. So synergy here, of course, if you're discarding a flow card or any other card that wants to be in your trash, you can get a little more out of this even exchange than your opponent. Might not be able to do that. And then each player drawing 1. That's, kind of risky, but I think overall this card is mostly just cute. I struggle to imagine a deck would want to play this in a constructed setting, because you're just giving your opponent too much. That being said, a fun multiplayer card, and honestly a card I think would be fine in pre-Rift, where it's just decently sized, but overall more of a fun card than a good card, which is okay. Then we come to Zed's rare champion unit, Zed without a sound, 5 energy and 5 might, no power, which is good on a champion unit. When I conquer, play a 0 might shadow clone unit token to your base, and that has an action speed ability of 1 energy and 1 power to move me and a shadow clone you control to each other's location, so you can swap the placement. This is weird though, because it is action speed, but shadow clones only ever have power when they are attacking, because they can gain assault. So you can never use this effect really. I guess you could move Zed in and then action it out and move the shadow clone in. But now you're taking a 5 down to a 4, which isn't that exciting either. So this action speed move thing is really awkward. You could, move Zed in, make a shadow clone, and then just swap the Zed with the clone to kind of like piece out and protect it. But the clones, of course, don't do anything on defense. So I think this card is not that great. Conquering and making a shadow clone is kind of nice, but there's nothing happening here as far as like keywords or readying or anything else ganking. So I think this card is overall kind of meh. Obviously, if you're playing Zed, I think the red champion is better. Could be a good champion of a draw when you're going second, but overall, I'm not particularly impressed with this one. I know some folks are liking this card, but I'm not a believer just yet, although it is great in your pre-Rift, as most rare units are. One champion unit I am all about, though, is Kennen, Storm of Shuriken. Oh boy, folks, best in show for Chaos. This card is just ridiculous. 3 energy and a power for 4 might, so a great baseline rate. When you play me, burn 2. Great. Get some cards in the trash to get things going. Then when I conquer, give a spell in your trash flow equal to its cost this turn. So this is effectively just a better Fizz, where sure, Fizz is a card you can play and use it immediately, but this is bigger, and then more importantly, you can just kind of keep going. You can move this thing in, conquer, play a card for yourself from your trash, and then if you get to back out and conquer again, awesome. Maybe you're playing Ride the Wind, you can conquer over the other battlefield and play another spell. And you're playing it for its flow cost too, which is great, where you can play Stack Deck for a single energy, which is awesome, or Starcrossed, Rebuke, whatever it is. This card is just absolutely fantastic. Probably a card that doesn't really replace Fizz. You just play it alongside Fizz, and now your trash is just your hand, which is incredible. And even the burn is incredible too. This thing burning 2 and having 4 might is unbelievable. Coming out of a champ zone is unbelievable. I think this card is just absolutely awesome. I think it plays well in Zed as well. And basically any deck that's interested in playing Fizz will also be interested in this card, because it is a hitter. Kennen, Storm of Shuriken, best in show for Chaos in Vendetta. From hero to zero, though, our next epic is Kharox, 6 energy for 5 might, has Empower 6 and 2 power. Whew, that's a lot. When I become empowered, choose an opponent, they burn 3. Then you may choose a unit in their trash and play it for free. It's a trap! So there are ways to empower this without playing that ridiculous absorbent cost. That being said, you are asking a lot of both your own gameplay and being able to play this, set that up, and pull that combo off. Then you're asking a lot of your opponent too. They have to actually have a card in their trash that you want to get that's worth getting. Picking up a Lonely Poro or a Traveling Merchant is not going to be that exciting. Even a mid-tier unit like Kaisa Survivor or something like that is still only just okay. If you're not getting an Elder Dragon or a Ferris Forerunner or something really, really chunky, you are not getting paid off here for all the hoops and work it takes to get this thing to function. That's why it's a trap card. I think this card is mostly unplayable and constructed. I think that maybe in the odd scenario where you're like boarding this in against an Aurora deck or some deck that has specifically really large units, that you could steal and kind of get value off that, but that just seems really, really sketchy. In your pre-Rift, I think it's fine, because you can maybe, people are playing larger units and it's just a way to kind of get some advantage and gain some equity and sizing in the mid to late game. But yeah, this is a card that looks impressive, but is a whole lot of work for not a whole lot of payoff. And then our final epic is Ocean Drake. 8 energy and 2 power for 7 might. That's a hefty cost, but you can play it to an open battlefield, which is cool. So pseudo ready, accelerate. And when you play me, you may return a non-dragon unit to its owner's hand. That's pretty good too. So it comes in, you can bounce their large unit, no matter where it is, and then take a battlefield too. Kind of funny that you can't use this to bounce their unit from a battlefield and then go there. It has to be an open battlefield. So this is like a pretty fine big unit. It is really expensive. 8 and 2 powers, just extremely high. Comparing this to a card like Deadbloom Predator, which sees almost no play anymore. Now that we're in the stage of the game where we have multiple sets and we're not just playing, base 1 set cards. Don't think this card really gets there in most scenarios. It's a pretty good pre-riff card, which is huge and has a big effect on the game. But as far as Constructed goes, there are just better things to do with 8 energy. And if you're going to cheat something out, it's a little better than this. Overall, Chaos is looking pretty great in Vendetta. Of course, headlined by Kennen, but both Zed and Mel look pretty good as well. A lot of good things going on with the trash and synergies there. Pretty good cards to your pre-riff too. It does seem like the average card quality of a common in this set is much higher and much more aware of limited play than sets like Origins were, which are clearly not really made for that. So I imagine it's going to be a pretty fun pre-riff as far as just decks feeling more cohesive and kind of going together more, which is really cool to see. So don't forget, this is only part 6 of our 8-part set review for Vendetta, going over all the cards. If you missed the Legend review, definitely go watch that and watch the other domains. We got Order coming up next, and of course, Battlefields to follow. So subscribe so you do not miss those. Again, leave a like and a hype, support the content, and hop to the comments, tell me how right or wrong I am. I know you all love doing that. So that's all for today on Arcane Academy. Class dismissed.